This week on Coach to Scale, we're getting real. John Walston, he's not a typical sales guy, but his story might be exactly what you and your team needs. He clawed his way out of a dark hole and wrote a brutally honest book, Keep On Moving, How to Move Through Anxiety and Embrace the Struggle. No fluff, no hacks, just real talk about accountability, mindset, and rewriting your story, even when it hurts. If you lead people, coach people, or are a person who's ever felt stuck, this episode, it's for you. Tune in now, then go do the hard thing. Oh yeah, drop your thoughts in the comment section on LinkedIn and subscribe to the Coach to Scale YouTube channel so you don't miss a beat. Let's go. Welcome to Coach to Scale, how modern leaders build coaching cultures. I'm your host, Matt Benelli. Join me as we build a community of like-minded professionals who share the belief that effective coaching improves the performance of every team member. Our mission is to help leaders become better coaches. The Coach to Scale podcast is sponsored by Coachum, the world's first AI coaching execution platform that leverages evidence-based coaching to increase quota attainment. And with that, let's get started. I'm excited for today's guest for a bunch of reasons. It's a break from our typical senior sales or go-to-market leader interview, but it's also delivering on a request made by many in our audience. Basically, what we're talking about today is overcoming adversity. And our guest, he's a husband, a father, an entrepreneur, and most recently, an author. But more importantly, he's a genuine and compassionate human being. And I think that's going to shine through. You want to talk about overcoming adversity? This guy seemingly had it all and then was sucked deep into a dark hole from which he worked relentlessly for a long time to resurface and gain control of his life. He's got a great story to tell. And something I know this audience is really going to like is that his specific advice, it's deeply caring, but it's not sugarcoating at all. The message is simple. And if you're ready to take action and be accountable for your path forward, I think you're going to take a lot from the conversation. But even better, if you're inspired from what we talk about today, go and order his book, Keep On Moving, How to Move Through Anxiety and Embrace the Struggle. John Walston, welcome to Coach to Scale.
Matt, thanks so much. I'm honored to be here. This is great.
All right. Well, happy to have you, man. Let's dig in. Yeah. You wrote a book about dealing with a topic that affects many people, anxiety. And then look, it affects, I don't have numbers and details and math behind it, but stress and anxiety affect a lot of people in our world here in sales and in sales leadership. What's a myth about those dealing with stress and anxiety that you believe is a bunch of BS?
I think the idea is that you can just stop it and you can just snap your fingers and it's done. And I think that it's something, what I found for me and from what I hear from many other people is that, once that kind of window or that door opens, it's always that monkey that you're trying to fight off, you're trying to deal with. It's just something that you have to continue to try to find strategies to manage. Whether that's being nervous, maybe in your world for making a sales call with a new client, or if it's some massive life situation that makes you not want to get out of bed in the day. But those feelings are incredibly overwhelming and can be completely life consuming, and it's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to find strategies. There's a lot of different things people can do. And I feel like it's a journey to try to find your path and find your way to try to be as functional as you can while you deal with that anxiety that's trying to grip you and take a hold of you.
Yeah. So and we can get into the coping strategies in a little bit, but basically what you're saying is the Bob Newhart style advice. And for anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, go to YouTube, type in the words "stop it," Bob Newhart video, and you'll get an oldie but a goodie. But John, I know you're familiar with that. The Bob Newhart advice of just stop it. If someone's saying, hey, I'm a little nervous about making this call or even something greater, it just doesn't work that way, right?
Not at all. And it's funny, like I completely failed as a father. With our oldest went through a period in like middle school where he dealt with some pretty debilitating anxiety. And I was that guy. I was like, come on, man, you can do it. Just kind of, deal with it and, make the change and whatever.
Get up, suck it up.
Yeah, exactly. And I totally sucked. I failed. And never being someone who dealt with anxiety until I had my, my health issues, like I was just completely ignorant Like I said, I was a complete failure in that as a father. And once I finally dealt with it, I had so much more respect and admiration for my son and what he had gone through. And now, dealing with how consuming it was for me, like my empathy and compassion for those who deal with it has just skyrocketed. And, you obviously have to walk in someone else's shoes to really understand what they're dealing with. But I mean, it's a really crappy mindset to just think that, stop it, you're done and change, because it doesn't happen. So.
Well, and we can carry that forward. I mean, first of all, very humble of you to say, you failed as a father. You might not have handled the situation right there, but I don't know if you failed as a father,
Yes.
but I think everybody listening can relate to that. But we can also extrapolate that, right? Even if you're not a parent, in your case, you're a parent, but you're also a business owner. You have a team of people. As a leader of a team, can't we say that same type of shit to our people? Like, oh, hey, you're late for work. Oh, I had this thing. Oh, get over it. Like, stop it. Get going. Can't we do that?
Right.
Which isn't good, right?
No. And I tell you, it's funny, the last 5 years going through all these things, like, I feel like I've become such a better leader and business owner, and, realize that you got to really focus on culture and, communication, those things with your team, because being that person who, fix it, as, mentioned, production, like just all those things. I mean, it's not like, it's really about that culture and that consistency and connection, is just really, I found to just be paramount. I mean, I think we've never operated as well as we have these past couple of years, given the changes made in terms of culture and core values, and really focusing on that and not just on, the work itself. So.
Well, if you just say, stop it, get over it, suck it up as a leader, you're going to be perceived as, let's call it what it is. Like, you're going to be perceived as an asshole. And I think you guys have a policy against that, don't you?
Yeah, no asshole policy. It's also a wonderful book, but yeah, no asshole policy. It's, well, once you have that type of thing, and, that spreads like a cancer in your organization. But yeah, I mean, it's just, once you start to look at the people who you're working with, a lot of times the people on your team, you spend more time with them than you do with your own family. So you have to understand what's going on in their lives. You have to understand some of the background stuff, and, this person's dealing with this at home. And as much as you want to try to leave everything at home, that's a huge square boulder to push uphill. Yeah. And I think you have to really be mindful of that in order to try to operate as well and as great of a team as you can be.
And coming out of the COVID pandemic, that stuff at home gets even harder, because a lot of people don't leave home. Like, they
Right.
roll out into their desk, into an office, like, it's right there within the proverbial four walls. So it's a lot more
Right.
difficult to compartmentalize and kind of leave it, where you can't see it while you're trying to be productive during the day. So your book, again, I'll just hold it up. I really enjoyed it. Keep on Moving. Why did you name the book Keep on Moving?
It kind of has become my mantra. About 4 years ago, I started a not-for-profit called the Keep On Movement. My goal was really to encourage people to lead active lifestyles. The connection between physical activity and mental health is massive. For me, exercise and running really saved my life. And I think that when you look at the science behind it, it's just physical movement is the pharmacy of benefits that you have already within your body just gets completely unleashed, and it's beneficial. So really, this is kind of the next step in this not-for-profit that I have, where just trying to spread a positive message, encourage people to be overcomers, and again, really choose to engage their minds and bodies moving forward, even when things are tough. Those challenges are always going to come at us, but if you can get your body moving forward, your mind moving forward, that's really what, again, for me, and I think for so many others, as you kind of delve out there, that whole idea of movement. And, I think people think that being positive means you always have to be happy. And I think that, you can be positive and be miserable. You can be positive and be sad. You can be angry and be moving. So it's about keeping things moving forward, keeping the chains rolling, even though you'll be going through those difficult times, because it gives you the momentum, gives you the hope to get to the better place. And again, like I said, for me, that movement is what really saved my life.
Well, I love what you're doing with the Keep On movement. I love the videos. They've certainly inspired me. Happy National Running Day, by the way. Who knew?
Yes.
Who knew? I think there's a day for everything. Like, it's hard to keep up with this stuff. I know you know that too.
Right.
But the day we're recording this is a National Running Day. So I thought of you recently. My father-in-law passed away this past Sunday, and
I'm sorry.
great guy. And he had heart attack, and he's just about 80 years old, and just super sad. But the conversation that we had with the doctor is what made me think of you, because he had heart failure. His heart was just stopping. The doctor was explaining this to the family, and this was a couple of weeks ago, and this is when they were going to send him home. And he almost intimated that there was something that could be done, or at least that's the way I heard it. And I said, Doc, there's nothing you can do to fix the problems in the heart, right? Like it's what's done is done. It's not like the liver, it doesn't, regrow itself or whatever. And he's like, no.
Yeah.
And he was a young doctor, and I'm not sure I understood the question that I was asking, but he said, generally speaking, you can do something about it. You can exercise. And this wasn't for my father-in-law. That's not what his answer was talking about. He was just saying, generally speaking, if you have issues with your heart, you can course correct them through exercise and keep on moving. And I just thought, wow, like that's such a powerful thing for people to know, that just because they have issues that may be affecting their heart, you can do something about it. And it goes back to that, physical activity and mental health, because sometimes people get in a downward spiral. I don't even know if there's a question in there, John, but I don't know if you want to comment on anything I said, or we just keep moving forward.
Yeah, no, I think I have two comments to that. I mean, one is, again, I think that moving your body forward gives you some type of, if you embrace the mindset, to give you some type of optimistic for a new day, a new tomorrow, a new beginning, a way to kind of flip the switch. So I think that just like physical activity, getting your heart pumping, just really feeling alive. Like, when you're breathing heavier, you feel more. Like, it's just give yourself the opportunity to feel alive. The other thing is, Duke did a study, I think it was like 2022 or something. But they followed people who were on some psychotropic drugs for depression. And so that was one control group, and the other group did, some type of physical activity regimen regularly. And they noticed that they got the exact same benefits, outcomes, but they actually noticed that long-term, the people who were in the physical activity group had greater sustained benefits, actually continued to improve, whereas the people who were on, the actual medications kind of hit a plateau. So again, and I'm not saying there's some people it's necessary, and I'm not putting it down, but I believe we've got this, read the science, the pharmacy inside of us that can be unleashed from that physical activity, just with and stuff like that. Like, again, you just contract your muscles, these proteins come out, and it does all these amazing things. So I know it sounds completely corny and dorky at times, but man, it is just, there's nothing like the high you can get from the exercising, and what it can change when you're sad and depressed. When you start exercising, the 20 minutes later, you're like a new person. It's just incredibly powerful. So yeah, I love it. And I completely agree.
I'm not the picture of health, and people shouldn't be taking health advice from me. But I want to echo what you're talking about there. I read about that study. I'm reading a book right now called Outlive by Peter Attia.
Oh, yeah, great guy. Yeah, he's amazing.
And he said, by far, the greatest medicine there is, nothing even comes close, is exercise and movement. It doesn't have to be running marathons, right? You just got to keep moving.
Right.
So I think it's awesome what you're doing with that organization. You've talked about having an impact, and I think that was the genesis for the nonprofit that you started. That was a big part of why you wrote the book. How can writing books, speaking on a podcast, or coaching an employee change the trajectory of somebody's life?
Because I think it can be one small thing, one action. I mean, one of the neatest things I've found with the book is that the feedback I hear from people is it's amazing all the different pieces that people have picked out of the book that they have identified with. So, like I thought there might be one or two themes, like, the cows and buffalo, or, the gratitude, but it's amazing how many different pieces of the book people have written to me that they've identified, wow, that this part spoke to me and that part spoke to me. So I think it's the power of communication. It's the power of actions. There's a really amazing guy, Kevin Hines. I actually read about him in the book. He's one of 5 people that jump off the Golden Gate Bridge and make a full recovery. He has done amazing things and changed people's lives. And he just has a really amazing message. But his whole thing was when he took the bus to the Golden Gate Bridge, he didn't want to park his car there. So his parents would have to get his car. But he talks about how being on that bus, he was just staring at people and just wanted one person to look at him, and the walk to the bridge where he wanted to jump. Like, he just wanted one person to look at him and connect with him and almost tell him not to do it. And, like it's that whole thing. Like, it's that one, especially now we live in such a selfish society, right? Everyone's on their phones, everyone's influencer, selfies, all this stuff. It's all about me. And that's just how our world is. But man, you can connect with like one person. Like, I have, to the not-for-profit, we have t-shirts, and one of the t-shirts says, keep on smiling. And I usually wear one of those shirts when I'm running. And it's amazing. Like, I'll go by someone who I can see walking alone, and you wonder, are they happy or are they not? And you see that big smiley face on my shirt and they smile at me. And it's like, you have those things called mirror neurons where it's give a smile, get a smile, like that energy. So that's really the hope, that I think one thing can really have a positive change in changing the trajectory of their day, their life, their whatever. So I think that, again, just whether you're writing a book, whether you're on a podcast, or you're connecting with someone on your team, it's about the energy you bring and how do you want that to be matched? And are you actually engaged with them, or are you kind of looking at them while they're talking, you're looking down at your phone?
Right.
I think it's really all of those, small things. And for me with the book, I made it very actionable. Like, at the end of every chapter, there's forward movement choices. So I wanted it to be like, because again, change is really about taking action. And, nothing happens until something happens, those kind of pieces. So I think it can start with one small thing, or it can start with a great connection, blossoms and becomes great. And, you continue to try to help foster someone's life and change the trajectory of their day, or, their week, or their life in general.
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be a lot. Like, being positive by reading, by listening, by surrounding yourself with positive people. You get little tidbits throughout the day, whether it's something you read, something on Twitter, something that you listen to, and it just says, oh, okay, maybe I should be grateful. Maybe I'm going to go out and take that walk, or whatever it is. Little things can go a long way. They don't have to be these humongous episodes.
Oh.
You never know what's going on in somebody's life. Read something similar and put it to practice. I read it a long time ago, and it said, when you're going through something really tough, if you smile while you're doing it, even though the last thing you do is smile. And I think of running, like, that's probably, I'm doing like something like that. And I just right. Start laughing. I just smile. Right. It's almost forcing myself. It changes your mood, right?
100%. Well, and you also use like 4 times more muscles in your face when you smile than when you frown. So again, right there, the actual myokines that release, like all those things, but just the smiling, it's really super, super powerful. I mean, it's even, my brother-in-law was a long-time principal, and he said one of his early mentors used to always say to every kid, every person he saw every day, when they would say, hey, how are you? He'd say, hey, best day. And then he adopted that. He says it all the time, but he adopted that because it always made him feel good to hear this other person say best day. And it just reminded him that, what? I am blessed to be here today. It can be a great day. And just again, those very, very small things, I think, can have a really profound effect and ripple effect of trying to spread the positivity and impact others.
My cousin's like that, like for years, whenever he's a little older than I am, whenever he asks him, how's he doing? Excellent, fantastic, best day ever. So, and right. Like 25 years ago, I wanted to strangle him. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, shut up. Like, my wife would say, nobody's not happy. He's going to have bodies in his basement, But like 25 years later, he's consistent. And I'm like, you know what? He's probably not, but sometimes he's not happy, but he's just telling himself that because it's better than the alternative. So, we learn, right. We get some wisdom as we get older. Even I do, I think. So John, a lot of folks that listen to this podcast have teams of people, and there's just a lot of stress, a lot of focus on the results, the number, the production. And sometimes we take our eye off of like what's necessary to go and generate the production, that there's a person behind that number. How important is it for managers to really read people versus just focusing on the production?
I think it's huge. I mean, the culture You obviously have to be aligned through core values, but I think when your people feel valued and when there's that connection and you taking 2 minutes to listen to someone who may want to share something about their weekend or, explain, hey, I kind of fell short on this because of this. If you create those moments in that space, you're going to get that back tenfold in actual production versus, angry person, you're shut down, you're only barking at them about what they didn't do. I mean, I always try to praise the good things. And I think focusing on the good things and building confidence. So I think communication and connecting is huge because I think it gives you tenfold value in the actual production in the end. But again, like I kind of touched on earlier, a lot of the people on your team, you spend more time with them than you do your family. And I think it's a huge missed opportunity to not have those connections. And obviously sometimes you have to deal with things that are not the most comfortable. And, you have to meet certain milestones and hold a certain standard and set expectations. But I think you can do it in a productive and beneficial way, kind of meets the happy medium. And in the end, you still get better production, and that old school, drive it with a hammer and just keep on pushing things through.
The beatings will continue until morale improves.
Right.
Yeah. So how can leaders encourage their people to open up about their struggles without making it feel like a performance review?
I mean, like for me, I'm a small business. There's 7 of us. So we have our, weekly team meetings on Monday morning. And, we usually spend the first 5 minutes just kind of, BS and talking and saying what's going on. But I think it's also like, it's really being conscious to ask people, what are you doing this weekend on a Friday? And actually remember that on a Monday, hey, how did it go this weekend? Your kid had a recital or, you went to a wedding or whatever, or, hey, you were doing a project at your house. How'd it go? I'm sorry it rained. It's funny. I saw a comedian talk about, being mindful, and how easy it was before we had cell phones. But like, again, it's just being present and mindful when you're with someone and not distracted so that you can remember those things, then follow up and show them that you actually care more than just the actual production and the outcome of the work, that you actually care about them, their life, their experience. I read a great book called Dream Manager. I think every person who manages should read, but it really talks about how you can connect with your people, how you can incentivize, how you can support them through connection and not just through, these are our, bullet points, our milestones. And if we don't hit these deadlines, everyone's screwed. And again, I think it's really being, aware of the people that you're with.
Dream Manager is the name of the book.
Dream Manager. I can't remember who wrote it, but yeah, I read that maybe 10 years ago, but yeah, it was really good.
It reminds me of probably the most quoted quote on the almost 100 episodes of this podcast is this: people don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Right.
That people will listen to you and open up to you when they actually genuinely feel that you give a crap about them.
Right.
So there's just so many ways that remind me anyway, of that quote. Earlier on, John, you talked about coping mechanisms for people dealing with stress, anxiety, and even deeper issues. I suspect in reading your book that one of those coping mechanisms is positive self-talk. If I'm wrong, please let me know. I don't want to mislead anybody. But if positive self-talk is one of those coping mechanisms, can you talk about the importance of it?
Well, I think I'll start by saying that negative thinking always works and never fails. So I think if you can start there and realize that your negative thoughts are 4 times more powerful than positivity. So just by trying to not think negative thoughts, you're already ahead of the game. Right? And you flip that into positive thoughts, I think creates that space. It's just like you talking about making yourself smile. So having those positive thoughts, visualizing things and saying positive things in your mind is huge. Another thing I read where they said what you verbalize and say out loud about yourself has a 10x effect versus what you say inside your head. So even, sometimes just not thinking it, but especially not saying it, like people say, I'm dumb, I suck, I'm this, you're already 10x the likelihood of happening. I think that if you can be mindful of that and then kind of flip the switch on it, you can start with just being the positive thinker and then start doing the positive self-talk. I know for me, like when I'm on like a run and I'm like pushing myself, like people must think I'm the weirdest dude in the world because I'm telling myself stuff and, pushing myself and just encouraging. But and it's been amazing, how that's changed my mindset. I think my abilities to try to be even more resilient in life and challenges and being the overcomer, that type of stuff. So I think positive self-talk is just paramount. When I was really in a dark place, I read about cognitive behavioral therapy, and I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not going to go too deep. People can do their own research, but you're essentially substituting negative dysfunctional thoughts with positive functional thoughts. And that was really like a huge light bulb for me. Like, wow, that's why I believe that self-talk is so important.
What's an example of that?
Well, so for me, I was psychotic and suicidal essentially. And, I would say more psychotic. Like I had something in my head told me that if I would hurt, because I really had very little control of what was going on in my brain and my mind. So I would have these thoughts that if I could take control and hurt someone, I would feel better. Totally dysfunctional, right? That's awful. And that was why I would almost kind of hate myself. And that's what would take me to the darker places about, hurting myself. So it was really identifying that. And then I started to substitute that for you're functional, you can overcome. And then I try to get more and more positive, but I would start really just, baseline psychotic thought. No, you're functional, just trying to get from dysfunctional to functional. And then I would start substituting more and more things. And that kind of helped me to realize that those thoughts were thoughts and I could actually control them. I didn't have to completely control me enough that I would then manifest some type of action that would be life-changing for me, for someone else, my family. The ripple effect of that would have just been massive and awful. So substituting those thoughts was super, super powerful for me.
So like substituting, I suck, I'm never going to make my number, with something like day by day in every way, I'm getting better and better. It's probably a better way to go. If not, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the top choice of them all, right?
Right. Well, or I suck and just start with, 1% better each day. That's like my mantra for my kids. Just tell them 1% better, thrive in adversity, but just putting those thoughts and those things in your head and then eventually feeling good enough about them to then verbalize them. And again, that whole 10X, once you start to say it out loud, that's when things can happen. And I'm not saying I'm I still suck at times. Like, I'm not saying that, but I think having those strategies in the toolbox to bring yourself out of those places is just huge.
John, we talked a little bit about the importance of showing that you care and you're paying attention to people. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of gratitude and showing an interest in others? You talk a lot about that in your book.
Yeah, I think that gratitude is powerful. I think there's major physiological things that happen when we have thoughts of gratitude, when we do acts of gratitude. And I think we can start to appreciate things within ourselves. That starts to allow us to then appreciate things about others. And I think it's even like we were just talking about in terms of the negative self-talk, positive self-talk. I think it's being grateful for the tough things that I think really allows us to fully embrace gratitude. We need mud and rain to make flowers. I think it's being thankful for when we're having those difficult times, and then we can be an overcomer and then be grateful for being the overcomer, and being grateful for when we feel anxious, because then we have the ability to move ourselves forward. So I think that allows us to then be grateful for the life that we have. And then from there, I think we can try to be a better person for others. And then I think we can do good things for others. And I think then you start to realize that you get so much more out of life by giving other than taking.
Well,
and I think,
I'm sorry. No, I cut you off. Sorry.
And I think when you really embrace that level of service to others, whether it's your family, friends, your community, whatever, once you really embrace, I think energy you put out there comes back to you, but you also realize that you can have a profound impact in changing the trajectory of others' lives, which is just massive, kind of like what we talked about in the earlier part of the podcast.
Yeah, the whole, give to get type of thing maybe ties in there. And look, you've showed an interest in me, and I appreciate that. I don't know if I'm sure you remember this, about 3 years ago, Pat Deeskin, AKA Joe,
Right.
That's your brother-in-law, right? Pat.
Yes.
So he introduced us. We share a common malady of chronic ringing in the ears,
Right.
AKA tinnitus or tinnitus. And, you've helped me deal with that. And you didn't know me from a hole in the wall. And we've had a bunch of conversations now. And hell, I like you. Pat's a great guy, but I like you more than Pat. So I appreciate him introducing us. So
Yeah.
yeah, you have the Keep On movement, the nonprofit. You wrote the book, Keep On Moving. Is there a next on that, or are you just going to double down and kind of keep doing what you're doing? What's most exciting to you now in that context?
Yeah, it's funny. Your timing is really interesting asking that, because I kind of decided this weekend that I really need to put together some type of presentation. I've always wanted to try to get into the schools. I've been sharing it with some of the schools locally. But again, kind of the whole idea of service. Like, I feel like our young people could really use the idea of, victim versus victor, and, overcoming. And, I think there's too much of a message where it says easy is best and mediocre is a goal. We actually have shirts through the not-for-profit that says easy is not best. I think that's kind of my next thing I want to work on this summer, is really putting together a very engaging presentation, kind of speaking type of a program that I could start to bring out there. And again, I'd like to start in the schools and then maybe towards colleges, and who knows where it could go from there. But I feel like having something to then, the book is there, the book is actionable, but how can I work to get the message out there more? And then people, once they hear that message, then there's also a book to follow up with. So I feel like it's going to kind of go hand in hand. I just need time to put something together that's really going to be, engaging. I mean, the book took me 2 years. And I'm happy with how it came out, but I definitely need to take the time, so whatever I put out there, it really has the profound impact that I would like it to have. So that's kind of my next step.
Yeah. Yeah, easy is not best. I love that. I share that song with you. The struggle makes you stronger.
Yeah.
Falls into that category. So,
Yeah.
John, a couple of questions that I ask all the guests before we wrap up. It's about coaching. First question is, can you share an impact of someone who's coaching, mentoring, leadership, something like that, has had an impact on you in your life, your career?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. I mean, I was a big sports kid growing up. I never really had a coach who was really amazing. And I feel like I've been blessed with a lot of really great people in my life. I'm one of those ADHD type of people. So I have had my hands in a lot of things, but I think doing too many things, you don't necessarily always get those great long-term connections. I had a really wonderful karate instructor who was great. But I'd say my answer to that question, it may sound kind of corny, but my wife is really, I think, the greatest coach and mentor I've had. I mean, we've been married for 23 years, and 4 years before that. She's just one of those people who has it all. I mean, she's never been a dream crusher. She's always composed. She's got the best filter in the world, and I don't have a great filter. She's probably my best 3 a.m. friend. Everyone says you have to have that 3 a.m. friend you can call. So I feel like she's probably been the best coach and mentor, and she's seen me at my highs and my lows and never been a bit of judgment. So, yeah, just super, super disciplined, super humble, just that person that I would aspire to be. And again, some people may think it's corny, but I think that she really has had the greatest impact in my life.
Go with
I'd put her picture right up there,
There you go. Yeah, it's a blessing to have that for sure. How about kind of more on like we'll go the next question on the celebrity side of things. Celebrity meaning a name a lot of people would know. Like who is your favorite coach, whether it's a fictional character or a real person, if a famous coach, and what attributes does that coach possess that you admire?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably a tie between two people, David Goggins and Jason Redman. Goggins, for those who know him, he's just that guy. For me, when I was at a super dark time, I felt like he was just speaking to me. And yeah, I totally embrace his mindset, his drive. So, definitely fictional.
Cool.
I've never met him. I've read his books. Whereas Jason Redman, I've actually been fortunate to meet him and get to know him a little bit. And he's just the ultimate overcomer, relentless positivity, and just, driven, motivated, humble, just a really, really solid individual.
Jason Redman, help me out. I know who Goggins is, I read his books, but how might I know Jason Redman, if at all?
So Jason Redman is another Navy SEAL, and he was injured in an operation, got shot, I think it's several times in the face, almost lost his arm. The guy almost died. His big slogan is "Stay awake to stay alive." His book is really powerful because he's very humble. He writes about a bunch of leadership failures that he had previous to his operation where he was injured. He always had that overcomer, but very honest and raw aspect to him. He's had dozens of surgeries. He's also famous for the sign on the door. When he was at Walter Reed, people would come in and shake their head. Oh, this poor guy, his jaw had been wired shut. And his wife write down sign they put on the door. I'm paraphrasing, but essentially, only come in here if you believe that I'm going to recover to the best ability and capacity that I can. Essentially telling everyone who's negative to stay out.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's super, super inspiring. His books are really amazing. And again, I caught them at a time where I needed, and then he had a group called the Overcome Army that I joined. That was where I met my friend Kenny Mitchell, who I read about in the book. So yeah, just a really, really inspirational guy who's just overcome so much and never, ever complains. So it's just, you can draw a huge amount from someone like that.
Wow. Listen, John, this has been great. We covered a lot of ground. We talked about culture and communication. We talked about importance of physical activity on mental health. We talked about, positive does not always have to equal happy. Dream managers, the negative thinking. Like we went on a lot of different places. So thank you very much for bringing it today.
Yeah, thank you. It's, I guess, really an honor to be here with you, and I'm grateful. So thank you.
You're very, very welcome. And everyone out there, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We hope this is something you needed at this time. Let us know you're out there. Engage on social media. John would love to hear what you took away. I certainly would love to hear what you took away from this, and also what type of content, what type of guests you'd like to hear from going forward. Having John on today was an action that I took based on a lot of feedback that I got from those of you out there. So thanks a lot for doing that, John. Thank you again. And until next time, coach them if you want to keep them. Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Coach to Scale, How Modern Leaders Build Coaching Cultures. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at coachem.io. That's COACHEM.io. And follow us on Twitter at CoachEmNow. See you all next week. Thanks for joining. And remember, coach them if you want to keep them.